They say in space no one can hear you scream, but they sure as hell could hear Corporal James Jimmy McAllister shouting 360 no scope as he turned an advanced alien warship into his personal Xbox. This is the story that the Zorgon Empire tried to bury, the tale that made veteran space warriors request planet-side desk jobs, and the reason why teabagging is now a forbidden word in 3 galactic sectors. The day had started routinely enough aboard the ZZ Dominator. Captain X Ragthok, decorated veteran of 17 campaigns and bearer of the Imperial War Academy's highest honors, stood on his bridge with the quiet confidence of someone who had never failed a mission. His 4 eyes scanned the tactical displays while his tentacles, adorned with ceremonial rings of conquest, danced across the command console. They had captured their human specimen with surgical precision, and soon Earth's military secrets would be theirs. At least, that was the plan. In the interrogation chamber below, Chief Interrogator Vexler was facing something unprecedented, a prisoner who looked bored. While hardened warriors had broken under Vexler's neural probes, Corporal McAllister slouched in the neural restraint chair as if it were a comfortable gaming recliner, making odd clicking sounds with his mouth and muttering about lag compensation and respawn timers. Your primitive Earth defenses will soon fall before the might of the Zorgon Empire, Vexler declared, activating his neural probe with practiced menace. Row, Jimmy responded, examining his nails. Your hit detection is straight garbage tier. No one aboard the Dominator realized it yet, but they hadn't captured a soldier, they'd captured a gamer, and their state-of-the-art warship was about to become his ultimate playground. The first sign that their perfect mission was unraveling came when Jimmy's cell was found empty. Not broken into, not blasted open, just empty, as if their most sophisticated phase-lock security system was nothing more than a tutorial-level puzzle. The shipwide alert hadn't even finished sounding when maniacal laughter echoed through the ventilation system, followed by a gleeful, "Dude, these vents are straight out of Among Us." Security footage would later show Jimmy dropping from a ceiling vent into the engineering bay, his eyes widening like a kid on Christmas morning. "Oh man, this is better than the legendary difficulty unlock," he exclaimed, immediately beginning to rifle through equipment that even junior engineers needed 3 years of training to touch. When Security Team Alpha found him, Jimmy had already discovered the experimental energy shield generator, a piece of technology that should have been as comprehensible to him as quantum physics to a hamster. Instead, he was rewiring it with the casual expertise of someone modding their favorite game. "Ruda, overshield acquired," he shouted, the blue energy field humming to life around him. "Time to go full Master Chief on these noobs." What followed was 3 hours of chaos that would later be classified as the McAllister incident. Jimmy turned the ship's gravity controls into what he called jump pad mechanics, transformed the cargo bay into something he referred to as facing worlds from Unreal Tournament, and somehow convinced the ship's AI that it was playing Cortana from some old game. The ship's security logs, later analyzed by the Empire's best psychologists, captured increasingly desperate communications. "He's bunny hopping. How is he bunny hopping in space? And sir, he's rocket jumping with the escape pods. The human has accessed the weapon systems and keeps shouting pew pew while firing the plasma cannons." Captain X Ragthok's breaking point came when Jimmy reprogrammed their most fearsome weapon, Karkthrog the Devourer. The cybernetically enhanced beast, engineered for maximum destruction, was found giving Jimmy piggyback rides through the ship's corridors while he hummed something called the Pokemon theme song. By the 6th hour, the Dominator's once pristine corridors had been transformed into what Jimmy enthusiastically called the ultimate custom map. Emergency lighting strobed in patterns that somehow synchronized with Earth music blasting through the ship's communication systems. Something about never giving up, never letting down, and never running around and deserting someone. The ship's elite, honored blood guard, warriors who had trained since hatching in the art of combat, found themselves utterly unprepared for Jimmy's speedrunning strats. Their carefully coordinated assault on the bridge ended with them watching in horror as their target used a combination of maintenance tools to launch himself through what he called sequence breaks in their formation. "You're wielding plasma, right, Jimmy's?" "Yo, these hitboxes are wild," Jimmy's voice echoed through the ship as he surfed atop a repurposed food service cart, dual-wielding plasma rifles with all the joy of a child with new toys. "This is better than that time I got a 20-kill streak in Titanfall." The ship's AI, now responding to Cortana Babe, had begun speaking in what it claimed was gamer language. Status reports came in the form of achievement notifications, and critical system warnings were preceded by "F in the chat, boys." In the armory, Jimmy had arranged the weapons in what he called tier lists, and was enthusiastically explaining to a terrified maintenance drone why the plasma cannon was definitely meta, but the neural disruptors were totally nerved, bro. The final straw came when Captain Exragtok, barricaded in the auxiliary control room with his remaining loyal officers, received a shipwide transmission. Jimmy had somehow managed to create what he called a streaming setup using the ship's emergency broadcast system. What's up, guys? It's your boy Jimmy here with another crazy gameplay video. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Today we're doing a complete playthrough of Steal an Alien Warship any %, and I think we might have a new world record. The situation deteriorated further when Jimmy discovered the ship's holographic training simulator. Within minutes, he had reprogrammed it to run something he called Counter-Strike, and was teaching captured crew members about Rush B strategies and Echo rounds. Some of the younger Zorgon warriors, to their commander's horror, were actually starting to enjoy it. "Okay, my alien dudes," Jimmy's voice boomed through the ship's comms, now decorated with what he called RGB lighting. "Today's stream is sponsored by Raid, Shadow Legends." Just kidding, but seriously, watch how I'm about to 360 no-scope these security bots. The ship's medical bay had become what Jimmy termed his respawn point. Complete with healing stations he'd jerry-rigged from medical equipment. He'd even programmed the medical droids to shout, "Medic!" in what he claimed was a perfect Team Fortress 2 impression. Captain Extractuk watched in mounting despair as his ship's security footage showed Jimmy teaching a group of maintenance droids to do something called the default dance. The robots, their programming thoroughly corrupted, had formed what Jimmy called a flash mob in the main hangar. "Yo, chat," Jimmy addressed his imaginary audience while surfing atop Karktrog down the main corridor. "Check out this sick wall run I found. The devs definitely didn't intend this." He proceeded to defy gravity in ways that made the ship's physicists question their entire education. The ship's weapon systems had been modified to make what Jimmy called hit markers sounds, sharp little dings that echoed through space with each successful hit. He'd even managed to program the ship's exterior lights to spell out GGEZ in Earth alphabet whenever they passed another vessel. By hour 12, several crew members had defected to what Jimmy called his squad, learning Earth gaming terms and attempting to replicate his inexplicable ability to find exploits in supposedly secure systems. A group of engineers was now earnestly discussing something called spawn camping and debating the ethics of using aimbot. The ship's mess hall had been converted into what Jimmy called his gamer lounge, complete with improvised energy drink dispensers made from modified fuel cells. He'd somehow convinced the food synthesizers to produce something he called Doritos and Mountain Dew, substances that seemed to only increase his chaotic energy. "Listen up, stream," Jimmy announced, now wearing a makeshift crown fashioned from bent metal and glowing reactor components. "We're about to attempt the biggest poggers moment in gaming history. We're taking this bad boy straight through the Zorgon Empire's main fleet." The remaining loyal crew watched in horror as their former warship, now adorned with crude flame decals and renamed the Pillar of Awesome in glowing neon letters, barrel-rolled through space. Jimmy had somehow programmed the external speakers to blast something called "Running in the 90s" as they approached the Empire's most fortified position. "Time for a pro-gamer move," Jimmy declared, fingers dancing across the modified control console that now resembled what he called a RGB gaming setup. The ship's sophisticated targeting system had been replaced with what he termed a quickscope interface, complete with hit markers and kill feed notifications. Captain Exragtok, one of the few original officers still on board, had given up trying to maintain military protocol. He sat in a corner, tentacles wrapped around his head, muttering about retirement, as Jimmy taught his new squad of converted crew members about something called trash talking. "Remember, boys," Jimmy instructed his alien pupils, "it's not about the kills, it's about how hard you can make the enemy mold. Watch and learn." He proceeded to broadcast every successful hit on enemy ships with audio clips from something he called MLG montages. The ship's AI, now fully committed to its role as Cortana, had started keeping a scoreboard of destroyed enemy vessels, complete with what Jimmy called kill streaks and achievements. Every successful maneuver was accompanied by a booming voice announcing things like monster kill and dominating. As the Pillar of Awesome carved its way through the Empire's defense fleet, Jimmy had begun awarding his alien crew members with what he called prestige ranks. The ship's former security chief, now wearing a headset made from modified communication equipment, had achieved what Jimmy proudly called Diamond Tier in ship-to-ship combat. "All right, chap, this next move is totally broken," Jimmy announced, preparing to execute what he termed a pro-gamer strat. He had somehow modified the ship's teleportation system to work like something he called enderpoles, allowing him to instantly relocate the entire vessel behind enemy lines. The ship's cargo hold had been transformed into what Jimmy dubbed his streaming setup, complete with improvised cameras made from security systems and a chat overlay projected onto the viewport. He'd even programmed the ship's defense drones to act as moderators, timing out toxic enemy ships by temporarily disabling their weapons. "Ah, baby, a triple!" Jimmy screamed as 3 Zorgon battlecruisers exploded simultaneously. The ship's AI dutifully added the kills to his K/D ratio while playing something called air horn MLG sounds through every speaker on board. The most concerning development came when Jimmy discovered the ship's research laboratory. Within hours, he had created what he called power-ups, converting various scientific equipment into floating objects that granted temporary advantages. The sight of a massive warship collecting glowing boxes in space while making Pac-Man noises would haunt the Empire's tactical officers for years to come. "Time for the final boss fight," Jimmy declared as they approached the Empire's flagship. He had dressed Carthrog in what he called gaming gear, complete with a headset and LED collar. The cyberbeast, now responding only to the name PogChump, had become his faithful streaming mascot. Captain X-Rakthok's final log entry, recorded before he commandeered an escape pod, simply stated, "The humans don't wage war, they play games, and somehow, that's infinitely worse." The final battle for the Zorgon Empire's capital ship unfolded like what Jimmy called the ultimate boss raid. He had reprogrammed the Pillar of Awesome's entire weapon system to display damage numbers and critical hit markers, complete with floating text that read, "Headshot," whenever they struck an enemy vessel's command center. "Chat, you won't believe this," Jimmy narrated while performing what he called a 360 no-scope with the main cannon. "But these alien ships don't even have proper spawn protection. That's just bad game design, my dudes." The Empire's flagship, a vessel that had struck fear into the hearts of 1,000 civilizations, found itself being systematically dismantled by what Jimmy termed cheese strats. He had somehow discovered that their shield generators had what he called wonky hitboxes, and exploited this mercilessly while humming the final boss theme from various Earth games. "Time for my ultimate ability," Jimmy announced, activating every modification he'd made to the ship simultaneously. The Pillar of Awesome transformed into what he proudly called his final form, complete with rainbow trails, particle effects, and sound effects from something called Super Smash Bros. The last transmission received by the Zorgon High Command was a video of Jimmy, standing triumphantly on his command chair performing what he called a victory dance, while Carthrog, now sporting RGB gaming accessories, provided backup moves. The ship's AI had overlaid the footage with effects from what Jimmy called TikTok filters. "And that's how you speed-run an alien empire," Jimmy declared, as the once mighty Zorgon fleet retreated in disarray. "Don't forget to use code JIMIF for 10% off your next invasion. Peace out, gamers." The legend of Jimmy McAllister lives on in the galaxy's collective memory, not as a tale of war, but as what he would call an epic gaming moment. Some say he's still out there, turning serious military encounters into what he calls content, and teaching alien species about the art of getting good. As for Captain X-Rakthok, he now runs a small consulting firm specializing in one very specific service, keeping human gamers away from military equipment at all costs. Thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch my next intergalactic takeover. Drop a comment below with which empire I should conquer next. Peace out.